is, can you introduce yourself, your prior experience, and just tell us a little bit about, obviously, your experience with dogs that are deaf?
Okay, so yeah, I have been dog walking now for probably about 5 years. Training, not quite as long, but I am an approved dog trainer with the Dog Trainer College. I'm also a member of the Pet Professional Network. I've done a variety of different courses. Deaf dog wise, I've lived with a deaf dog for around 10 years. I've just taken on my second one. I do lots of help with people online, so I do videos for people. Currently got an online course that I'm making, so I tend to specialise in deaf dog training.
Describe your dogs to us.
Oh, absolutely. I've got a 11-year-old deaf Dalmatian called Logan, and I've got a 1-year-old deaf Dalmatian as well. He's called Sherlock.
Like owning a deaf dog? Is it different from owning a dog?
See, I get asked this quite a lot, whether it's more difficult or whether it's just different. And to be honest, it's just different. It's simply the way that you're communicating with them. You need to change slightly. But on a whole, it's absolutely no different to owning a hearing one, really.
A stigma around deaf dogs, you know, if people were to go to...
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know too much about it until I started researching it. Because to be honest, when you live with one, you kind of, you know how it's not too different, if that makes sense. You know that they can live a normal life. And then when you read on the internet that actually there's breeders and quite big breed organisations that are saying the second you find out that they fail their hearing test, that's it, they need to be put to sleep. There's no way that they can live a normal life. And that's absolutely not the case. And you see it a lot with rehoming centres. So they'll say, we've got a deaf dog, however, he can't live with children, he can never go off the lead, he can't do this, he can't do that. And actually half of it's not true. There's this stigma that they can't go off the lead, they can't have a normal life, and they're completely untrainable. And if you're looking into rescuing a deaf Dalmatian, you read that, you're instantly going to be put off.
And would you say that all their other senses are maybe heightened? So
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both of mine are quite clingy in the sense that if they're in the room, they have to be touching you. But also, they are very aware of your body language. So all I need to do is speak to mine, and he will get up from across the room and he'll come and say hi. So I think they're very in tune to senses, absolutely.
The training ritual just for deaf dogs, is it different at all?
Okay. Not so much, in the sense that you teach the behaviours in the same way that you would with a normal dog. So in classes, for example, I might lure a sit using a piece of food, or I might lure it down with a piece of food. That's exactly the same process when I'm training my two. The only difference is adding the cue at the end. So where you'd add a verbal cue for a hearing dog, I'd continue using that hand signal. So actually in my classes, I have an exercise where I make owners work in complete silence. So we practice the sit, the down and the stand using a lure. And then after several weeks, I ask them to do it in complete silence. And all the dogs are able to do it simply by following that hand movement.
What inspired you to raise awareness of this? Because obviously you're very passionate about it. I can obviously...
Absolutely.
As well.
We talk about it forever, yeah.
What inspired you to get out and raise awareness to the public?
Okay, it was probably, I was in between university courses, and I'd always done trick training with my dog, always. And I ended up at a work experience placement with a dog behaviourist. And I picked her especially because on her website it said, we work with deaf dogs. So I was like, right, that's the one I want to work with. And the more and more I researched, the more I realised there was this stigma, and how if my dog had gone to somebody else, or if he'd have had a different breeder, then he wouldn't have even been given the opportunity. It would have just been, we're putting him to sleep at 5 weeks old, and that would be it. So I think that kind of drives me to kind of educate people that they're absolutely capable of having a normal life.
What advice would you give for someone that's watching this that might buy a deaf dog, or might even have a deaf dog and have been told numerous times, you know?
Yeah, I'd probably go with, don't listen to the myths that you hear. They're absolutely trainable. It's simply just having to communicate with them in a slightly different way. There's a lot of myths saying that they can't go off lead. They can if you put the work in. They're very trainable. My two get on with my little sister perfectly. She's always been around them. There's been no issues with kids at all. So I think it's just pick an appropriate trainer that knows what we're talking about, and don't listen to the myths that you read online.
Perfect. And lastly, is there any support groups or places or any information that you could kind of tell us at all that people could maybe get in touch with? Should they want to?
Absolutely. There are some great Facebook groups online. I mean, I've got a website, I've got a YouTube channel. I'm always happy to answer questions if anybody ever asks. There's a really great group. If I had to pick one, it's the Deaf Dog Network that's on Facebook. And Karen Law's their founding member, and she does so much for deaf dogs. So she would be the one I'd say to go to.